Saad, what do you think is the proper level that a CIO should be involved in these projects at, in terms of what do you delegate over internally to someone, um, and also then you're bringing in a vendor possibly to deal with it. To what degree do you need to manage this and stay involved? I would imagine it would be very bad for one of these projects to go south. That's not good, right? Because you could really have a big problem, compliance and all sorts of things. But tell me your thoughts on that.
So the answer to that will differ depending on which CIO you're speaking with, how big their team is, how big their org structure is in general. I would say probably that this kind of stuff more often than not will fall under whichever leader reports up to the CIO that handles the EHR landscape and or deals with the data structures and data warehouses and analytics oftentimes. Those kind of leaders are usually the ones that these projects fall under. As for what do you want to outsource versus do yourself, I'm of the same mind as Chuck. So a lot of this is, as I've mentioned before, ends up being at least a little bit unique, if not very unique, when you go from one archiving project to the next. And usually it's better to be able to get the experts that do this for a living day in and day out. They tend to have at least some level of experience with all the major EHRs. They've dealt with different versions. They've dealt with different kind of projects where you're dumping a lot of data from very, very disparate kind of instances, cleaning that and cleaning the data in the sense that you're standardizing it to some extent, and then you're creating one single archive from it. That's the holy grail when it comes to data archiving, right? So you want to get that external partner, and you want to make sure as a CIO that the folks that actually deal with the inherent little issues that go around how data is accessed from the user perspective are the ones that are overseeing that project. As a CIO, I tend to say that if I get down into the weeds, everybody's in trouble, right? because we don't know as much as the subject matter experts, as the leaders that are very tactical, that understand the reality on the ground. So we need to let them lead these kind of things.
Right. And there's a couple areas of strategy focus for a CIO that really need to look at when you think about archiving. One we talked about was the 21st Century Cures Act. So, you're responsible for the technology to meet, that particular requirement. So how does archiving fit in? So define the strategy of how it fits in from a fire perspective, and how it fits in from interoperability potentially, and also retention and delivery of information in a timely fashion to the patients when they request it. So how does that piece work? But then you also have this thing called application rationalization, which we're all, going through. And I'm doing that here now, been here 4 months. We have way more application, even though we have, Epic as our EHR, we got another, 799 that aren't Epic, and that have just been acquired over the years. And many of those have been sunsetted. We're still paying, read-only maintenance on them. We've calculated 15 that we're currently moving right now just to be able to get rid of the software maintenance. So there's an ROI associated with that, right? So my job is, from an app rationalization, is out of those 800 applications, how many can we just archive away, get rid of the maintenance aspects of it, get that ROI in, plug it into whatever system it needs to, if you need to pull the information back in contextually with the patient, and start to reduce that spend over time. So archiving has a play in that. So that's the CIO's job, is to try to figure out, and the vendor can help as well because they've seen a lot, is where does it fit? It's not just moving the data for retention. Where does it fit? Is there a data analytics play? Because we're moving to research now. So I mentioned University of Nevada, Reno Medical School. And so is there a play there? So that's my job, is to kind of figure out where it fits, but then let the others, do the work, as Saad mentioned.